So if you're looking to buy a car from the Volkswagen Audi group, which is quite a big selection of cars nowadays, I dismissed anything that didn't have a turbo because I just felt they were underpowered and didn't offer very much potential when tuning. I also dismissed the extreme performance variants, the typical engines you'd find in the S3, the TTRS, etc., just because of the high running costs. It would be nice to have one of those engines, but I needed a car that was practical and cheap. So this restricted my choice of engines to just 3 options. So we've got the 1.4 TFSi or the FSI, depending on which manufacturer you go for. We've got a 2-litre TDI and we've got the 2-litre TFSi or FSI again, depending on the manufacturer that you choose from. So I chose the 1.4 TFSi. So this video really is outlining my thought processes and why I went for the 1.4 TFSi. So we're going to look at the awesome little 1.4 TSI or TFSI engine from the Volkswagen Audi group. It's actually the engine that I've got in my current car, so it certainly has a special place in my heart. And it's going to be an engine that I'm talking about in great detail and great length. So the 1.4 TFSI generally gives you around about 140, 150 horsepower, just depending on which variant you've got. And a lot of people look down on it when they look at the 2-litre TFSI engines, and they just feel that the 2-litre offers so much more than the 1.4. But the significant thing you need to bear in mind is that the 1.4 TFSI is 70 kilograms lighter than its 2-litre counterpart. And that 70 kilograms makes a big difference not only to the performance and the acceleration, but also improves the handling of the car. And the 1.4 TFSI block is quite strong, so it can certainly tolerate some decent tuning upgrades and turn your car into something very, very special that easily competes with the larger 2-litre TFSI engines. So a 1.4 TFSI will run a quarter-mile time round about 16.37 seconds. The 2-litre TFSI counterpart will run that quarter-mile time in a much quicker 15.17 seconds. But bear in mind, we're comparing 150 horsepower with 200 horsepower. You would expect the 2-litre TFSI engine to get there quicker with an extra 50 brake horsepower. But what happens if you increase the power of your 1.4 TFSI to 200 horsepower? Well, now your 1.4 TFSI engine is doing a quarter-mile run in 14.92 seconds. So it's the same power as the 2-litre engine, but those 70 kilograms are shaving a significant amount of time off your quarter-mile run. And it also makes sure that the 1.4 TFSIs and TSI engines are much more economical just because they're carrying less weight. Mine's actually got the cylinder on demand options, so 2 cylinders will cut out when it's under light loads, around about 1400 RPMs or more. And that makes a significant difference to fuel economy. I've come down from a 2-litre TDI and I was looking for something that offered similar power and similar performance, so I opted for the 1.4 and I was very pleasantly surprised with it. It was giving me better performance because it was lighter, it felt quicker, it handled much more nicely, and the engine was smaller and responded more quickly to my accelerator inputs. I just felt I had more control over it, and it does outpace the 2-litre TDI on motorway runs and long journeys, and even around town, if I'm very careful, I can get very respectable fuel economy from it. And I've actually returned around about 70 mpgs on a run that I do quite regularly, whereas my 2-litre TDI was only getting about 56, 57 on that same run. So there's a lot of advantages in the 1.4 TFSI engine. So there's a lot of confusion about engines when it comes to the Volkswagen group, just in the way they label it. Most engines have an EA designation, and EA211 is your typical 1.4 TFSI. But there is a lot of confusion as to which engine has which designation. So rather than do specific videos on the correct engine designations and just adding to the confusion, we're going to discuss the 1.4 TFSI TSI, and there's been quite a few revisions of it over the years. In fact, the first one actually had a twin-charged setup, so it had a supercharger and a turbocharger. Now, the advantage of that was you get quite a lot of boost from the supercharger at low RPMs. The twin-charger engines were rather complex, and I'm not really surprised that Volkswagen eventually dropped them. The later TFSI or TSI engines came with a turbocharger, and it was very well set up. It didn't actually feel like there was very much lag at all. There was a little bit of low end lag. You can pretty much ignore that low end lag. It's such a small dead zone, and most cars will take a little bit of the RPM range before they start coming on pace. So it's certainly enough to get away at the lights. With the stop start technology and the cylinder on demand that they've added, it really does make the 1.4 TFSi every bit as economical as my 2-litre TDI. But bear in mind, I'm not comparing this with the later generation with the CR setup. This is an early PD 2-litre TDI engine, and it was very economical for me. But if I take the headline MPG figures, so my trip computer during a couple of years of ownership of both cars, on my 2-litre TDI it was showing 47 MPGs, and on my 1.4 TFSi it's showing 48 MPGs. So there's not a lot in it really when you look at the average fuel economy that I've got over quite a substantial period of driving. But the cost of diesel was more, so that would have cost a lot more. And I'm really happy with the 1.4 TFSi engine that I've got. I've got a tuning guide coming up that covers the 1.4 engines. There was quite a few different options as we've outlined to go for. So we're going to look at the best mods and upgrades and give you a good overview on where to go if you're looking to tune your 1.4 TFSi FSI engine. So the pros and cons of each engine really. The 2-litre TDI is an economical powerhouse. It offers so much low down torque. I found the cost of buying diesel starting to creep up, and even now it's starting to creep up even more. The difference between gasoline or petrol, depending on your region, and diesel is a widening gap at the moment. So if you've got a diesel, you're onto a disadvantage straight away, although diesels are very economical nowadays. The thing that worried me about diesel was having a diesel particulate filter, and my personal driving was limited really to fairly short journeys, so it wouldn't ever have got up to temperature, and I would have had problems with the DPF filter keep clogging up, and that really wasn't something I was willing to entertain. So I was looking for a petrol. So my choices now are either the 1.4 or the 2-litre, both with a turbo, both offering quite a lot of power and performance. So the 2-litre TFSi is obviously the performance choice. If you want the maximum power and maximum upgrades, then certainly go for the 2-litre TFSi. But if you want a good blend of performance but low running costs, good fuel economy, and still have a little bit of potential there to increase the performance, the 1.4 TFSi is a fantastic option to go for. And as we've outlined in this video, the weight advantage of the 1.4 TFSi engine with its 70 kilogram benefit over its 2-litre brother really does add up to making the car an overall superb option if you're after a car that's just fun to drive and accessible, and it really did improve the handling. So we've got lots more videos coming up on the 1.4 TFSi. It's the engine I've got in my car. I'm playing with all sorts of different options, looking into mods and upgrades, and I'll be reporting my findings. So please stay tuned. If you haven't done so already, subscribe, boot that like button because that helps us to get out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.